everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to go over a comment from Amy S. She shared a quote because I did this video. It's called Joseph Smith, The Second Coming, Millennium, Watch for the Signs of the Times, etc. And I was wondering out loud, just what's the millennium going to be like? What's it going to look like? We have some information about it, and she knew about this quote that I want to share. It's from John Taylor, and we know that John Taylor was a president of the church, and she shared it here. Just like I always do, I wanted to make sure that I could find the original source, and I found it. It happens to be in the Journal of Discourses. They also put it in a church manual for Institute. It's the Institute Manual for Church History in the Fullness of Times teacher manual. So I'm going to read a little bit more than what she shared here because there's some additional information. So I'm going to read through this. Before I do, I wanted to bring everyone's attention to this channel, CC, Different in Happy Ways. This is a member of the church. I believe that she's from Australia based on her email. She emailed me. She wants to move forward with her channel and share more gospel related things. She wants to talk about the word of wisdom and just other LDS content, her conversion story and things like that. So it would be great if you guys could check her out, subscribe. I'll put her channel in the description below. I also have it, if you go to the main page for my channel, if you go down here after uploads, I have all the different channels that I promote, and she's right here, CC, Different in Happy Ways, or different, isn't that what it's called? Yeah, Different in Happy Ways. It cuts it off here, but it shows the full thing here. And of course, that's a reference to the President Kimball prophecy about the sisters in the church right now, how if they maintain themselves unique and separate from the world in happy ways, that they'll attract many others to the church, the good women of the world. So make sure to check her out. Please subscribe. So anyway, Amy says, I think the millennium will be much like how John Taylor described the New Jerusalem. And then she shares the quote. It looks like this can also be found, because she put a reference down here, Taylor Gospel Kingdom, page 216. So that must be another book, but you can find it in the Journal of Discourses, and that's where I'm going to read from for this video. So this talk, okay, this is called The Blessings the Saints Will Enjoy, How the Kingdom of God is to be Established, Building Temples, Tabernacles, in Houses, Gathering the Poor. This is Great Salt Lake City, April 6th, 1863. It says, remarks by Elder John Taylor. So I guess at the time he wasn't president of the church yet. Made in the Bowery. I'm not exactly sure where that is. The Bowery? Let's see. Great Salt Lake City, the Bowery. Let's see if we can find out what that is. The Bowery and the old Adobe Tabernacle. Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna go into that. I'll share this though. It looks like this probably talks about it, so I'll put this in the description below. Okay, so it starts down here about halfway through the talk. He says, "We believe that God is going to revolutionize the earth to purge it from iniquity of every kind and introduce righteousness of every kind until the great millennium is fully introduced." So I want to stop here and point out that this whole process, it's all, there's not going to be like an abrupt stop and beginning. There is, as far as like the cleansing of the earth, it seems like that's going to be probably abrupt, although we don't know really all the details about that. But when I say that there's going to be like different phases, we can already tell that just during this dispensation, there's been different phases, and we're getting toward a phase that the general authorities and the prophet himself are referring to as the latter part of the last days, and the winding up scene, and hinge point, and phrases like that, right? And then we've studied a few times on the channel how in the very beginning of the millennium, although we're not going to have anyone around that's still living a telestial law, we are still going to have people living a terrestrial law, including all the different beliefs and religions that they're out there. So when it says here, you know, that it's going to be purged from all iniquity, we know that at the beginning of the millennium, there's still going to be people that don't believe. There's still going to be sin, just not of the telestial sort so much. But eventually, in process of time, uh, everyone will either be converted to the church or they'll pass away. But at some point during the millennium, everyone's going to become members of the true church. So that's just something to keep in mind as we read this. He says, "We believe, moreover, that God, having commenced his work, will continue to reveal and make manifest his will to his priesthood, to his church and kingdom on earth, and that among this people there will be an embodiment of virtue, of truth, of holiness, of integrity, of fidelity, of wisdom, and of the knowledge of God. We believe that there will be a temporal kingdom of God organized, uh, that will be under the direction and auspices of the Lord of hosts, and that in all our affairs, whether they relate to things temporal or things spiritual, as we have been in the habit of calling them, we shall be under the direction of the Lord, as the scriptures say, it shall come to pass, quote, it shall come to pass that all the people shall be taught of the Lord. And then it references Isaiah 54:13. I just want to check this out. I'm gonna pull it up on the church website. I want to read the chapter heading. I want to do that because I just want to be solid that this is actually talking about the millennium and not necessarily the lead up to the millennium. So Isaiah 54:13. Let's go all the way down here. 54. Okay. It says, in the last days, Zion and her stakes will be established, and Israel will be gathered. In mercy and tenderness, Israel will triumph. And then compare to 3 Nephi 22. And then the other scripture is Jeremiah 31:34. Okay. Jeremiah 31. In the last days, Israel will be gathered. The Lord declares that Ephraim has the birthright as the firstborn. The Lord will make a new covenant with Israel to be inscribed in the heart. then all Israel will know the Lord. Okay, so those are the two chapters that he's referencing. And then continuing on, this is part and parcel of our creed. We believe that we shall rear splendid edifices, magnificent temples, and beautiful cities that will become the pride, praise, and glory of the whole earth. We believe that this people will excel in literature, in science, and the arts, and in manufactures. In fact, there will be a concentration of wisdom, not only of the combined wisdom of the world as it now exists, but men will be inspired in regard to all these matters in a manner and to an extent that they have never been before. And we shall have eventually, when the Lord's purposes are carried out, the most magnificent buildings, the most pleasant and beautiful gardens, the richest and most costly clothing. Now, see, this is interesting right here. Let me just stop, because a lot of times in the Book of Mormon, I feel like the Book of Mormon, it may be the only book of scripture that talks about costly apparel. And usually it's kind of looked down upon in the Book of Mormon, not because I think because it's costly or it's nice, but because it's used as a way to divide class, dividing into classes of people, those who have, those who have not, and so therefore it's kind of looked down upon in the Book of Mormon. But I think that when you're a Zion people and you're not dressing to compete with other people or to stand out or to distinguish yourself as higher than other people, then it's probably good to dress in nice clothing, because just like how the temple, it's made of all the nicest materials, right? We ourselves, our bodies, are temples of God, and it would make sense that we would um, adorn them with the nicest things, the best styles, everyone being unique, just like all the different temples are unique. We would do the same thing, although the difference is that in the millennium we're going to be a Zion people, and we're not going to be misusing clothing. So uh, just wanted to point that out, and be the most healthy and the most intellectual people that will reside upon the earth. This is part and parcel of our faith. In fact, Zion will become the praise of the whole earth. And as the Queen of Sheba said anciently, touching the glory of Solomon, the half of it had not been told her. So it will be in regard to Israel in her dwelling places. In fact, if there is anything great, noble, dignified, exalted, anything pure, or anything or holy, or virtuous, or lovely, anything that is calculated to exalt or ennoble the human mind, to dignify and elevate the people, it will be found among the people of the saints of the Most High God. And then he references Articles of Faith 113. That's the one where it says, "We believe in being honest, true, chaste, benevolent, virtuous, and in doing good to all men. Indeed, we may say that we follow the admonition of Paul. We believe all things, we hope all things, we have endured many things, and hope to be able to endure all things. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things." So, and that would be across all different fields, all different domains: science, engineering, math, because math in itself is beautiful. It's not really invented or created, it's discovered. Um, just everything, everything that you could possibly study and do, all talents, all areas of knowledge. Okay, this is only a faint outline of some of our views in relation to these things, and hence we talk of returning to Jackson County to build the most magnificent temple. Now, I have a question about that, because you know the original plans for the first temple of the 24 temple complex, it basically looked very similar to the Kirtland temple. And I'm not saying that the Kirtland temple doesn't look nice, but a lot of times, like before I knew that that's what it was supposed to look like, before I even knew that there was a 24 temple complex, like when I was younger, like a teenager, I always pictured like just like a huge, incredible temple, and I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case. I'm sure that whatever happens, because I don't even know if it's still the plan that there would be a 24 temple complex. I assume that it is still the plan, but I'm sure that they'll be incredible. But anyway, you can put your thoughts on that down in the comments below. So anyway, and hence we talk of returning to Jackson County to build the most magnificent temple that ever was formed on the earth, and the most splendid city that was ever erected. Yea, cities, if you please. The architectural designs of those splendid edifices, cities, walls, gardens, bowers, streets, etc., will be under the direction of the Lord, who will control and manage all these matters. Now, that is interesting. We know that the Lord has given instruction on temples, notably, the tabernacle while Israel was in the wilderness, which essentially the same pattern was carried over to Solomon's temple, and then on to the second temple. And then uh, it seems that the actual dimensions for the temple in New Jerusalem was given to Joseph Smith. And even though they weren't able to construct it, like I've said a billion times on the channel, they built the Independence Visitor Center to be those same specifications so that in the future, whenever the time comes, it could be part of the temple complex. And that's why I think that that's probably still the plan, is to still have a temple complex. So it'd be interesting to go beyond that. If the Lord is starting to um, organize cities and things like that, it'd be interesting to see how that would come about. Uh, the original plan for New Jerusalem. Let's see if we can. Okay, um, original drawing for New Jerusalem, Independence, Missouri. I want to see if I can find it. Now, this is something that I haven't necessarily gone into in depth. Okay, this one's on the Joseph Smith papers. This is like the second version. The first version, this is the city. Okay, let's actually go to the website. So the first version, it had the city smaller, and then they expanded it out. And I think they made some other changes maybe down here with the temples. But here in the middle, these two blocks, you see that each block has 6 temples. One block or one set of temples for the Melchizedek priesthood, the other for the Aaronic priesthood. They would have different functions. Um, Now, what I don't know, because I haven't really looked into it, is the streets, the grid, if that was revealed or if that was just Joseph Smith's planning. But in any case, I wouldn't be surprised if it was inspired, maybe even directed. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when New Jerusalem itself is built and future cities and temples. So that's an interesting concept, that the Lord himself would, quote, control and manage all these matters. Okay, and the people from the president down will all be under the guidance and direction of the Lord in all the pursuits of human life, until eventually they will be enabled to erect cities that will be fit to be caught up. That when Zion descends from above, Zion will also ascend from beneath and be prepared to associate with those from above. Now, this sounds pre-millennial because it's talking about the city of Enoch coming down, and I'm not so sure it's talking about the literal land and buildings rising up above the earth to meet Zion halfway. I wonder if it's talking about, like, in a spiritual sense, becoming a Zion people. I don't know. I don't know. The people will be so perfected and purified, ennobled. See, this is talking about like who they are as a people. Perfected and purified, ennobled, exalted, and dignified in their feelings, and so truly humble and most worthy, virtuous, and intelligent, that they will be fit, when caught up, to associate with that Zion that shall come down from God out of heaven. Well, so since it's talking about being caught up, this could be referring to when the church is caught up, when there's the resurrection of the dead and the living are quickened and caught up to meet the Lord. Because I'm still like I'm still I'm kind of fuzzy when it comes to like the timing of exactly when Zion comes down. I know there's gonna be angry typing like, "Oh, you should know, you haven't done your homework." I don't think it's really that clear. I know that you probably have like the perfect timeline. Somebody out there has just the perfect timeline. They figured it out. But anyway, at some point, in some place, we're going to be unified, mixed together, blended in with the city of Enoch and become one people. So it sounds like that's probably what he's referring to here. This is the idea in brief that we have entertained in relation to many of these things. If we could keep our eyes upon this a little while and then look back to where we came from, examine our present position, and see the depravity, ignorance, and corruption that exists where we have come from and that yet exists among us, it is evident that some great revolution, some mighty change has got to transpire to revolutionize our minds, our feelings and judgment, our pursuits and action, and in fact, to control and influence us throughout before anything of this kind can take place. And hence, it is when the light of heaven comes to reflect upon the human mind, when we can see ourselves as God sees us and comprehend ourselves as he comprehends us and understand our position as he understands it, we should have different views of ourselves than we have when unenlightened by the Spirit. Now, that's interesting there because right now, with worldly philosophies and science and things like that, there's kind of a big war being fought about who we are and where we fit in, and trying to push out God, trying to make us seem insignificant, like just little meaningless specks in a gigantic universe, and therefore just do whatever you want because it doesn't matter. Nihilism, the idea that nothing matters, that it's all just everything's meaningless, so just do what you want, do what makes you happy, whatever brings you pleasure. uh you know Hedonism, the seek for pleasure, that's what life should be about, is obtaining the most pleasure possible, instead of our divine identity. In this last worldwide devotional, both Sister Nelson and President Nelson talked about divine DNA, our true identity, who we really are, who we're meant to be, and becoming our true selves. And so Satan has all these different labels, all these different things. He wants to get you identifying yourself in these worldly ways rather than the truly powerful identity that you possess as a child of God, child of the covenant, and disciple of Christ. Those were the top three priorities according to President Nelson when you're thinking about who you are. Okay, so no wonder that Joseph Smith should say that he felt himself shut up in a nutshell. There was no power of expansion. It was difficult for him to reveal and communicate the things of God because there was no place to receive them. What he had to communicate was so much more comprehensive, enlightened, and dignified than that which the people generally knew or comprehended. It was difficult for him to speak. He felt fettered and bound, so to speak, in every move he made. And so it is to this present time. Yet, this being a fact and these being part of the things we expect to accomplish, there must be a beginning somewhere. And if the chips do fly once in a while when the hewer begins to hew, and if we do squirm once in a while, it is not strange because it is so difficult for the people to comprehend the things which are for their benefit. We've been brought up so ignorantly, and our ideas and views are so contracted, it is scarcely possible to receive the things of God as they exist in his bosom. That's really powerful. If I were to sum that up, I would basically sum it up as, look, we are in a really messed up world. We are basically cavemen as to the things of God, because iniquity has been allowed to flourish, and it has flourished, and Satan has had his time, and he's had his time to convince us of all these dumb things, brainwash us that we're so like backwards. Not necessarily our fault, because like you said, there has to be a beginning spot, a beginning place. But as a people in a human civilization, we're so backwards that it's hard for us to fully comprehend the things of God and the higher concepts. And if I might be so bold, there's all these different things that offend people, but they're the things of God. These are divine principles that are being taught, and Satan is being really successful at getting people to view things with disgust, or um, view it as a injustice, or just all these different things. And it's really sad because there's many members of the church that are just like taking it hook, line, and sinker. You know, it's being pushed everywhere in all of media, society. Um, so yeah, it'd be interesting to do an experiment where if you took somebody that was like a member of the church, but not really steadfast, but just like someone that's kind of more caught up in the world, the type that like they go to church, they seem like they're good, but you can tell they probably don't have that strong of a testimony. They're more concerned about the world's opinion about them. It'd be interesting if you took someone right now that's living that way and then showed them Zion, what like deep into the millennium, when everything is the way that it should be. It would probably be disturbing to them because of the brainwashing, because of the conditioning of how we're taught right now what is right and what is wrong, and the propaganda and stuff like that. Because uh, the thing that we have to remember is that God is no respecter of persons, right? And that's something that we deal with all the time right now. Is it's always about not hurting feelings. You're not allowed to say that because it could offend somebody. You're not allowed to think that. That's a wrong way of thinking. You need to change your entire way of thinking to accommodate this or that. But when it comes down to it, when everything is fully implemented, there's not going to be any of that type of behavior or those type of philosophies, right? So this person that I'm talking about, this hypothetical person, would probably it'd probably be pretty jarring. It'd probably be jarring to most of us anyway, but there'd probably be a pretty big culture shock, I would imagine. Um, you already look at how things are right now with what we have. We're not a perfect design people right now, but with what we have in the scriptures and the things that the prophets and apostles say and things like that, even with just this little bit that we have many people that are uncomfortable with it. They want to explain things away. Yeah, even my channel, which is focused on watching for the signs of the times, all of you know that there's people that that don't like to think about it. They want to like pretend like it's not going to happen. And like I've speculated before, I feel like there's some people that actually they get into it kind of, but they want to prove that it's not soon, that there's so much that has to happen. And I wonder, some people I think are genuine, but others I think are trying to find ways uh, to convince themselves that it's not soon because it scares them. Uh, anyway, I'm not going to go too far into that, but I think you know what I mean. So anyway, that's it. That's it. I'll put the I'll put all these links as always in the description below in case you want to read further. On this one right here, this is the Institute Manual for Church History in the Fullness of Times. It's the teacher manual. The first quote is mostly what we just read. from Elder John Taylor. After that, there's some quotes from Gordon B. Hinckley, Neil A. Maxwell, Elder Dean L. Larson. I'm not sure who that is. President Ezra Taft Benson. So you may want to look through that. Let me read one. Let's do Elder Maxwell, because he was basically my favorite, I think, of all time. He says, now we are entering times wherein there will be for all of us as church members, in my judgment, some special challenges which will require of us that we follow the brethren. See, here it is right here. And he's giving this talk in 1979. I think that we're at this point that he's talking about. All the easy things that the church has had to do have been done. From now on, it's high adventure, and followership is going to be tested in some interesting ways. And boy, oh boy, is it being tested. It is. It's being tested. People are getting confused. Or people are just simply having to make choices between being accepted by the world or being accepted by the Lord. Let's read his other quote, because it's short. Now, this one's in 1985. He says, "We have long heard and believed that the Lord has reserved special spirits to come forth in the last days of the last dispensation. The church's rising generation," that's one of those key terms, by the way. It's on my tracker, my spreadsheet. "The church's rising generation of young men and women are a part of that vanguard." I did a video about that, about the vanguard generation, because that's a term that President Benson used. In fact, if you want to see that video, if you missed it, let's go here. Let's do generation. Just do a search. This video right here, generations X, Y, Z, and President Ezra Taft Benson. This goes through all the different, pretty explicit statements by not just President Benson, but President Nelson and others, identifying specific generations that are essentially the ones that are going to, I'm just going to say it, that are going to be around for the second coming. I feel like if all you did was just watch this video, that's all you would need to know that, no, this really is the generations X, Y, Z. I'm pretty sure the baby boomers as well as some from probably even President Nelson himself. I wouldn't be surprised. So I'll put this video in the description. You should watch it. It's really good. But let's go back here. Okay. Reserved by the Lord for this time, they must now be preserved. So they were reserved for this time. Now that they're here, they must be preserved by parents and prepared for their special moment in human history. They have been held back to come forth at this time, but now they need to be pushed forward to meet their rendezvous. Yeah, and I think it's the rendezvous is with the second coming. It's with between then, 1985, and then the second coming. The work that needs to be done, that is being done, that has been done, and then into the millennium, for sure. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check this all out. Again, please subscribe to Cece. Check her out. And then make sure to check out these links for further reading. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video. If you liked it, put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.